Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to probably the last of my videos talking about the new patch in general. So the patch went live. It actually went live quite a few hours ago, however time zones mean that I've only just gotten to being able to look at it. So I'm just going to go through, similar to the video that I did on the dev server. I'll just go through and discuss new vehicles and a couple of other things that have changed which I find interesting or could have an impact on the game. So starting with America, we have the M1A2 SEP V2. Once again, it's basically just a heavier Abrams, similar concept to all the European ones, like the Challenger 2 OES and the Leopard 2 PSO and the Leclerc Azure, where basically at the cost of some mobility you get better heat protection along the sides. Plus, oh no, I forgot, this doesn't have it, I'll get to that later. And then you have the M1A1 HC clickbait, which gets all the standard shells, and I will show you what another change that they've made, which I think is quite nice. Here it is. They've changed the tank test drive, which is quite nice. So yeah, this is just a normal M1A1 M1A1 HC, my bad. So nothing's changed other than it's just a specific version that was used by the Marine Corps. And yes, should be a very nice premium. It is a pack premium. I don't know how much for. I shall try and find out and put it in when I'm editing if I remember. But I would suspect it could be a $60 or $70 pack. That is US dollars. No new helicopters. Aviation. America only gets one plane. That's the F-15. Flight performance of this. It's basically a big F-16 from what I've seen. It doesn't dogfight as well as an Su-27 from what I remember. I could be wrong. Bear in mind, when I'm talking about the flight performance of these planes, I've not had the ability to fly them out, so it's just from what I've seen from other CCs, because obviously my channel's not big enough for me to get all the test drives. So if you want to help me get there, please subscribe, that way I can become a Gaijin content creator. But anyway, in the meantime, so yeah, 2 Pratt & Whitney engines. So it's got very good acceleration. This is the kit that gets mostly dumb bombs in terms of ground attack, other than the GBU-8. But in terms of air-to-air, it's not bad per se. It's 2 AIM-9Ms, 4 AIM-9Ms and 4 Sparrows will be your standard loadout for Air RB, which is competitive but not the best in the game. The thing about the AIM-9Ms compared to the Magic 2s and the R73s is that, because of the way that the IRCCM works, if you don't know how to flare them, it's very hard to flare. But as soon as you learn how to flare them, you don't even have to cut your afterburner. Whereas with the other ones you do, so you can flare those without losing speed. Well, aside from the speed that you lose when turning. Another new one is a boat. The USS Roanoke. Pretty quick firing guns for the main guns. 5-second reload for a 6-inch gun, which is quite nice. I think this will be a relatively decent ship, but I don't know much. Nothing here. USS Cyclone, eh? Yeesh. Sorry. PTSD. Germany gets the Leopard 2A7V. Interesting that they've not folded it with the PSO. That might be a work in progress. This is from what I've seen. Kinda similar to the Leopard 2A6. No doubt 7-7's gonna roast me on a spit for that. But it gets... well, it's a development of the 2A6. Well, it's a development of the 2A7, which is a development of the 2A6. It's got the long-barreled L55A1 cannon. Plus it's got some extra armor along the sides. My throat's already going, sorry. And then the major thing for top tier MBTs is the spool liners. I don't know how these are gonna change things. It depends on how Gaijin's implemented them in terms of how effective they are, because it could be really irritating if it turns all dart rounds into basically 37mm APDS rounds. That would be very irritating. So we'll have to see what happens. In terms of rounds, you get all the stuff you'd expect. The M53 as your best round, and because it's a rank 8 tank, this is a very good change that Gaijin have implemented. You now get APFSD as stock, which is going to be very nice. Plus you get the mine protection, which I'm not sure how useful that's going to be in game. Alright, and something else, not a vehicle but a mechanic. Germany gets nothing in terms of aviation. A new mechanic. If you go to modifications, you can now test. If you go test, it shows you how to use those. It's specifically for aircraft, missiles. I don't think it's for bombs. I think it's only for missiles. But yes, that shall be very nice. Yes, I know how an IR guided missile works, thank you. So yeah, it'll be good because it'll help people who've bought premium packs. So they're not just fat fingering keys all the time. So yes, that should be very useful, and it's a good change that Gaijin's implemented. Also sticking with the Hunter F-58, the pilot now gets CCRP, which, I mean, it's alright, but nobody really takes bombs with the Hunter, I think. And also you get a drag chute, so that should be good for landing faster. Wait, Germany get boat. No boat for Germany? Germany didn't really get anything this patch. Bet that's going to trigger some people. Alright. Russia gets the T-90M, the whole start of the spool liner debacle. Sorry. Doesn't have a very powerful engine when stock. And it's like British levels. So I suspect this is still going to be inferior to the T-80 BVM. It's still got the bad reverse gear. It's basically going to be the T-80 BVM with better armor but worse mobility. It's got relict on the sides, the kinda busted ERA. But yes, should be a nice backup tank for Russian top tier. I'm not sure if the BVM got a spool liner. I don't think it did. Spool liner for the BVM. Not that it really needs it, to be honest. Alright, planes. They haven't really added any helicopters this match. Su-27, which comes after the Su-17s, which shall be annoying for some people. It's a giant aircraft. This is probably going to be the new top dog. It turns pretty well from what I've seen. Once again, I've not been able to fly this out myself. It appears to be kind of like a pre-nerf MiG-29, so that should be interesting. In terms of secondary weapons, just like the F-15, you don't really have any ground, well, you don't have any guided ground ordnance, unlike the F-15, which gets GBU-8s, but you do get up to 6 R-73s. You can only take 2 R-27 ETs, and then up to 6 R-27 ERs. Yeah. That's quite a loadout, and that's why I say this will be the new top dog. You get R-73 stock. Come on. So yes, this really should be 12-7. You should not be, yeah. Definitely should be 12-7. Gaijin said they're going to wait and see what happens. I'm like, well, what do you think's going to happen? But anyway. And then a boat that wasn't on the dev server, the Novorossiysk something or other. Don't correct my pronunciation, please. This is a former Italian ship, hence the Italian gun name, and then the Soviets put a bunch of extra AA turrets on, as you can see from the there, the 37s. So I don't know, big boat and big guns. That could be a new channel logo, big boat. For Britain, they get the Challenger 3, also known as a tank that's not even in service yet. This is the technology demonstrator, so it's just a prototype. Not sure if it gets a spool liner. Yes, it does get a spool liner, as you can see through this. Does it? Yes, it does, but not in the turret. And then some of the other Challengers got spool liners too. But yes, this should be very nice. It's basically a Challenger 2E, but with armor, which shall be nice. And also the mantlet's stronger from memory, though you've still got the weak 70mm lower hull. Yeah, not great. But anyway, in terms of aviation, Britain got a Gripen, specifically the South African Gripen. Those of you who, like me, a fellow Swedish enjoyer, will be excited to see the plane. I don't know if they use that as a roundel. Anyway, you'll notice there's a C, which in theory means it's better than the A. Sorry, my throat is really bad. Better than the A. Yes, so in real life, but in game, at the moment, it is exactly the same. Because now that they added the HMD to the J29A, JAS39A, sorry, I've been grinding for the J29A, it's stuck in my head. JAS39A, seeing as that's now also got an HMD, they're exactly the same, down to the loadouts they get. Unlike the F-15 and the Su-27, this should be relatively decent at ground support because you get a Lightning II pod with GBUs, or you get Mavericks, which shall be very nice to use in mixed battles, plus you get an insane amount of countermeasures if you take out the 6 AIM-9Ms. Personally, I would just take out the 6 AIM-9Ms with the bowl pods. Just don't bother with the sky flashes at 12.3. For what I've seen, the flight model's been nerfed, but it's still very good dogfighter. Matt AWG, when he took it out, he said it feels kind of similar to a F-16A. That is the A No, just the plane A, so should be a very good dogfighter. Then Britain also gets boat. The HMS Orion, it's going to be 6.7, so near the top. And 13.5-inch guns, very slow reload, so not the greatest, but oh well, should be good. Bit of advice, because one of the reasons why I play naval is for the sake of SL. The 600% boosters start at 5.3 for the British tech tree, or 5.0 with the HMS Enterprise. So really there's no point getting anything past rank 3. But that's just my opinion. And then no small boat. Japan doesn't get a top MBT, though the Type 10 and the TKX did get moved up to rank 8. They do get a howitzer. Yeah, it's basically a long-barreled howitzer, pretty standard howitzer gameplay, no armor. And is that an autoloader? Yes, so it does get an autoloader, so that's good. And then it's now got very high velocity HE gun, now that they've finally corrected the velocity. And it should be very nice to use. Plus you get 50 cal on the roof, which is always nice when you're in a howitzer. What's its reload? 7.5 seconds when stock, so quite nice. Japan gets the F-15J, found after the EJ Kai. Basically it's an F-15C that's been licensed produced. In the game it's basically the same as, it's a slightly heavier version of the F-15A, so worse flight performance but gets AAM-3s. These are 40G missiles but with an AIM-9M seeker from what I understand. On the dev server they weren't pulling 40Gs, but now hopefully they've been fixed, and they should be very nice missiles to use. Definitely use them over the AIM-9M. But other than that, radar missiles are all the same and everything else is basically the same. So yes, should be very nice for Japan to finally get, well, I mean the F-16AJ was also pretty good back when that was top dog. But yes, it's worth the suffering of the EJ Kai and the EJ Phantom. I bet that's suffering now, because that's main selling point was the radar, but now it's got the same radar as an F-16, so that's probably much pain and suffering. But it's worth it. Blue Water Fleet, this premium got moved to rank 5. But other than that, nothing's really happening for Japan's Blue Water. Then they got the small boat with some Bofors and a 3-inch gun, and some 20mm Oerlikons, some 50 cals. Actually quite a heavily armed coastal vessel, plus rockets, which I couldn't find on my dev server video. Where are these darn rockets? I don't know, it says that there are rockets here, but I can't see them for the life of me. So you'll just have to trust Gaijin that they're there. Anyway, I'm not going to waste time on a boat, because that's probably not why you watch my channel. Alright, China. They get the VT4A1. Looks similar to the one before it, the WZ1001 ELCT. That's snappy name as always, China. My social credit score just went down. I'm kidding. The Chinese government doesn't watch YouTube because it's blocked. Now, the selling point of this is it gets APS. So that should be very nice for this tank. It's got an autoloader, which is going to be near impossible to ammo rack, just like the Soviet ones for some reason. but should be a very nice tank. The only thing is, oh, it's actually got decent reverse gear for once. This might actually be decent for mobility. And then, in terms of rounds, it's got NVD, that's new according to it. It's got an APFSDS, which is going to be very nice to have that stock. And then tandem warhead ATGM barrel launched. And I think these are French rounds originally. But yeah, should be very nice. And aviation, we have the Su-27 again. It's basically copy paste. Oh, new camo. It's basically copy paste. Basically the same weapons, just under the export names. But yeah, I think it is very slightly heavier than the Su-27, but other than that, it's basically the same. Oh, by the way, the Su-27s do have IRST. Yeah, they've got IRST, which will be nice for those of you who like using that for your IR missiles. Alright, moving on to Italy. They get nothing ground-wise. This was the mysterious we're working on it. And the dev server, the AMX Ghibli. I'm sure that means something serious in Italian. I'm not sure how I feel about this plane. It's probably going to have terrible flight performance. In terms of ground attack, it's going to be quite nice, because it's got paveway 3s and paveway 2s. And a targeting pod. But the big thing for me is the AIM-9Ls. It needs them. Oh, by the way, it has a Vulcan. It needs them because it's probably not going to have very good flight performance for 10.3. But that means it's going to be another contributor to the compression. That means that if I'm in my G91Y, that's another thing carrying AIM-9Ls that I have to watch out for. So yeah, it's another one of those strike aircraft with bad flight performance but good weapons. So I don't know how I feel about these planes. Gaijin really needs to have a think about it. Anyway, the Leonardo da Vinci is coming as a rank 5 premium for Italy. This was another thing that was being worked on. And it gets 305mm guns. Once again, very slow reload, 2 rounds a minute. The Roanoke's actually looking more and more like it's going to be very good. But yeah, Italian boat, I don't know much about them. That's quite an old ship. 19, actually, meh, not sure. Nothing for baby boats. France gets this thing. It's basically an Easter Vark that got fat and grew another gun. Not much to say other than it should be very amusing to run around with a pair of 20mm. And yeah, seems kind of cross between an Easter Vark and a Bosvark. But it's got very good mobility, obviously being a no armor truck. It's got literally 0mm armor. So yeah, it's not a good sign when the wheels show up as the most armoured part of it. But yeah, speed is key. Though the only thing is with these guns, my big gripe is that they've got very short belts and they take a long time to reload. So that's something to bear in mind. Very fast turret rotation speed though, which is nice. And then no other ground vehicles. Oh, I forgot to mention, Britain also gets a premium, the Challenger 2 OES, similar to the TES, but gets different armor upgrades. It's got ERA on the sides and slat armor, but similar idea to the TES in the tech tree, just slightly different armor upgrades. It was supposed to have paint that reduced its thermal signature, but I don't think they've added that. Where were we? France. And then for aircraft, France gets something that definitely shouldn't be 12.3, the Mirage 4000. It's a prototype that Mirage made, and it's got very powerful engines. It's basically, in terms of flight performance, hold S to win. In terms of weapons, they did add the 530Ds, but even still, what would you rather, 4 530Ds and 2 Magic 2s, or /4 Magic 2s and 2 530Ds, or you could take 8 Magic 2s plus 2 drop tanks. So, yes. In terms of ground RV, it's got the Nords, which is nice, but it doesn't have, the Atlas targeting pod doesn't have thermals. And by the way, your flares take up a dumb bomb pylon, so it doesn't affect your air loadout, but will affect your ground loadout if you're taking dumb bombs. But it should be very nice in both ground and air RV. The only thing is, oh, that's not great. Your flares aren't stock, I think, from what I've seen. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure all you get stock is drop tanks. So, if that's the case, have fun with that. But other than that, it's going to be a very good plane. France gets 2 boats, which I didn't mention because I don't think they were on the dev server. This 4.3 boat with 138.6 mil guns. Very specific France, thank you. So yes, French boats look quite cool. And then also the Corbeil. Sounds kind of like Sorbet. Another generic rank 5 ship. Now, Sweden gets the STR V122B+. I'm not sure if this is a development of the 2A6 or the 2A7. It's basically another up-armoured tank. It's got composite screens, which will be good for against heat, not so good against kinetic rounds. Other than that, not much to say. It does get the mine protection and that Swedish round, which is not as good pen as the DM53, but very heavy compared to it, so that shall be very nice. And you also get a spool liner, so that shall be good. In terms of aviation, you get the A Gripen, which is copy paste to the C Gripen, as I said, now that they've added the HMD to it, so exact same for ground as well from what I've seen, so that should be very nice. Finally, Israel gets the M109A1. It's basically a standard M109A1 but with a couple of extra machine guns. And then the Giraffe, which is hilarious. It's an M113 tow launcher, not much to say there. But very funny name, thank you Israel. And finally, the F-15A Baz. Exact same one as the one in the US tech tree, from memory, except it gets Python 3s. So that shall be interesting to see what people prefer, M9Ms or Python 3s. Also, I forgot to mention the F15J doesn't get GPUs, I think. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, just quickly putting this in the day after I finished recording. A couple of notes. The Gripen, once it loads, has had its ammo reduced significantly from 512 to 120 rounds. And another important note is that some squadron vehicles like the T-80U, because it's been moved up to rank 8, has had its squadron points research cost increased. There are a couple others. They are, if I go to the changelog, it doesn't say. But yeah, just so you're aware. I think also the T-80 UK has increased too. And a few others. Yeah, it has. But not as much, so just so you're aware of that. But anyway, that's a very brief overview. Also, they added a new map, Sakhalin. But you can... No, it's called Volcano Valley, based on Kamchatka. But you can look at that yourself. And yes, that shall be everything, I think. You can check out the changelog. I'll try and remember to link it in the description. But that will be all for this overview. Thank you all for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you all next time.